Good morning, everybody. My name is Gauthier Falconet. I'm the Vice President of the Car Connectivity Consortium. And I'm very pleased to present you both what is the Car Connectivity Consortium and what is the MirrorLink technology. So if you have any questions or any interrogation on how, what is MirrorLink technology, I invite you to join our booth that is same floor, not the same floor, top floor, but on the same place in order to see real products regarding MirrorLink technology. And there will be a cocktail 5:30, same place, if you want to do some socializing around this. So here is the agenda. So I will present the landscape for smartphone integration into cars. What are the insights that bring us to the MirrorLink technology? Then I will present you the Car Connectivity Consortium and the development of the MirrorLink technology. The certification process also, which is very important in our technology, and in the end, the application. So the purpose of this part is really to provide you an overview of what's the MirrorLink activities, and what's the Car Connectivity Consortium activities, and what's the MirrorLink technology. So some insights. So cars are getting connected. They can be connected to infrastructure, to other cars, with car-to-car technology, with other machines, with the cloud, with eCall. We see that there is a very big need for a car to use connectivity. And consumer wants their app everywhere, and they want to be connected everywhere. Currently, they are frustrated because when you come in your car, you feel that you have to cut the contact somehow with information coming from the outside world and from your friends. And consumer, if you can propose a new use case and also a media use case to consumer, then you can make a very big difference in cars. And currently, these apps in cars are not standardized. And this compared to USB, Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi, which are standard, and this is what makes them successful. When we see how we integrate apps in cars, we see pretty lot of solutions. And if an app vendor wants to build apps in cars because he has a very interesting use case, then he has to contact every car maker and say, how can I do this? And most of the time, it will imply rebuilding the whole app. And currently, this is not a very good solution. Some other insights. When you build an app for a car, the safety is one of the prior concern. We really want to have fewer distracted drivers on the road. And this is why the car context is a context that is very specific, and you need to have UX design that is designed in order to minimize the driver distraction. Application needs to be designed for the in-car use. And for that, there are some design guidelines that has been created by the European Commission, in the US, same thing, and in Japan. But they are very complex because they are targeting the automotive industry. And for an app developer to follow these guidelines is something very difficult. Another insight is how fast connectivity and how fast smartphones are evolving. A few years ago, we had 2Gs. Now we are moving 3G, 3.5G, LTE. And this is getting faster and faster. And to follow this connectivity evolution, it's very difficult for car usage. And new services, new applications are coming every half or picoseconds. There is a new app coming. And new services are really showing very fast. And integration in cars in this area is really lacking. So we have very different product life cycle between app industry, car industry, and handset industry. And we need to find a technology that will bring the life cycle of this industry together in order that we will provide to the end user a reliable solution. So if we take all these elements, we see that we need to have a different approach. And to develop this approach, we need to bring people together. And so this is why comes the Car Connectivity Consortium. So what is the Car Connectivity Consortium? It's a global consortium to develop the smartphone-based connected car solution. So it's open to anyone. Any company that wants to apply is really welcome, whatever their area they are. The solutions, what's very interesting is here, the MirrorLink solution is not governed by a single corporation. Compared to the other solution I showed before, it really belongs to the members. So as soon as you join, you can use the solution, and you can start implementing it, and you can start proposing new use case in this solution. And this is very important. And also, the solution, the MirrorLink technology, is really OS agnostic. So the technology is based such as it can be built on any OS. There is no restriction on this purpose. And the Car Connectivity Consortium developed access to a device certification and also application certification, which is very important if we want to guarantee that the user experience will fulfill the insights I've shown before. So the Car Connectivity Consortium is bringing cars, handset, head unit industry, and tomorrow app developers together in order to build the MirrorLink technology. So currently we are established since February 2011, and we are now 85 members, so it's very rapid growth. We represent 80% of the global market share in car industry and 70% in the smartphone industry, which is very big compared to the other solution. And we are developing MirrorLink as the open standard industry for smartphone integration. And this is developed by the CCC. Here are some of our members. A lot of car makers, as I showed before. GM, Fiat, BMW, Renault, Volkswagen, Ford, PSA, Mercedes, Toyota, Volvo, everybody is here. We have the major player in the smartphone industry, Nokia, HTC, Samsung, Panasonic, LG, BlackBerry, everybody is here. And we have also tier ones, we have app developers, we have navigation providers, and all these people want to enable the use of apps in cars safely. So what's MirrorLink? Currently, if you want to develop application in cars, you have to redesign your application. MirrorLink is a different approach. MirrorLink application is bringing here the phone application in cars, but not with some custom interface. It's really a copy, a mirroring of your application that is running on your phone in the car in a safe way. So here, it's a completely different approach than before. App developers don't have to redesign they don't have to use some development on platform they don't know. They can just use their Android application or their Windows mobile application and start building just a few APIs to know that they are in the MirrorLink context. And then they switch in this car mode, and then they are in the car. They don't have to redesign the application. And this is very important if we want to have apps in the cars, is to have this very easy, transparent usage of the application. So as you can see here, it's an extract from the IQ from Toyota, first car announcement of first car product included MirrorLink technology. So you see it's really a replication. And as soon as you turn on MirrorLink, you don't have to use your phone. You can let your phone there, and you just use the touchscreen in a safe way. So where we are right now. So in 2011 was really aftermarket product. In 2013, it will be the line fit. So meaning that products are certified and they will be announced in the market. In 2015, the volume. This is really the target. So in the first wave, Nokia has been supporting MirrorLink for a Symbian Bell. Samsung on his Samsung Galaxy S3, very big, popular product. Panasonic, we see also head units on the other side. Alpine, Sony, GVC, Kenwood, and the IQ, as I told before. So currently, there is 261 products that has been certified. So this includes variants, but this is a very huge number. And we can see 11 headset has been certified MirrorLink, so it's device certification, and 17 head units. So it's coming, and it's going to be pretty big. What do we do in the business context? We do not differentiate middleware or connectivity. We don't differentiate in user interface. We don't put hand on your interface. It's up to you. As soon as it relies on the driver distraction guidelines that we are building, you are free to do whatever you want, whatever interface, use your guidelines for this. So MirrorLink is about allowing application to provide a differentiation. So we don't have a spatial infrastructure for automobile application. It will maximize the ROI for everyone in the value chain, and it will leverage an open, generic approach to address utilization and driver distraction issues. We do not conflict with embedded automotive solutions. It's an added to the current solutions we currently have in cars. We complement them. And we are building the business infrastructure to support the app use in the automotive environment, and this is coming now. So it's time to get involved and to provide feedback and guidance on the MirrorLink technology inside the Car Connectivity Consortium. But if we are thinking of developing apps, as I said before, currently the phone applications are not designed to be used in cars. If you take your phone, it's not even in portrait, and the text is very small. If you say this phone mode, it's not, everyone will agree that it's not usable in cars. So there will be an adaptation, but the UI can remain the same. The UI principle can remain the same. So in order to build an app that is compliant with MirrorLink, you will have to follow the UI guidelines and application certification that is relying on the official guidelines. In Europe, it's the ESOP, NETSI from the US, and JASPAR in Japan. And this will help you removing distraction. As I said before, all these elements leverage down the distraction, taking care of the context of the car, and to design your application that it can be used in cars is very important. And this is where these guidelines are designed. It's a digest version of the official guidelines, and it's really meant to be used for app developers to develop their apps to comply with the official guidelines. So, as I said, these common application development guidelines will be very useful, and it will make the certification process transparent for the end user. As soon as your application is certified, it's in the market on MirrorLink devices. We are targeting first half of 2013 to deliver this full process and all the architecture that, all the infrastructure, that goes with it. And so we will have three kind of applications. Some standard application, like Angry Bird, for example, that is not using MirrorLink currently, and that is not reliable to be used in the car. And there will be two levels of certification. First, the the base level of certification, MirrorLink base certified application. So for this, we ensure that the application has all the information relying to the MirrorLink context, and that it has the mechanisms to have a certificate. And in addition to that, if the application that is enabled for MirrorLink want to be used in the drive usage, they will go for the drive certified application, which will enable them to be used in the car. And this includes certification to third-party organization. So we see that with base certified application, you will be able to use only when the car is parked, and when if it's directed to the driver while the car is moving, you will have to be drive certified. And the only difference is the fact that your application is certified related to the driver distraction guidelines. So we are together making a lot of effort to make this infrastructure working. For the application developers, it's very transparent. As we can see, the app developer just provide their application to the application store that they used to know, so the Android market or other markets. And in parallel, they are going to have their app certified for the drive usage. And this will be done with test labs. And we are developing an application certification management system that will generate and manage the certificate in order to provide this information to the MirrorLink server on the phone side that the application is certified or not. And as soon as the application is certified, it will appear on the head unit to be launchable and to be used as a native application in the head unit. So for the app developer, they just have to ensure that the app is tested regarding the driver distraction guidelines, and they just have to submit it to the App Store in the common way that they are doing right now. No modification in the apps is requested, except from the knowledge that they are in the MirrorLink context. They just have to provide the apps to the application store, and it will be available on the phone and in the head unit. So we are a global collaboration to develop the smartphone-based car connectivity solution. So we are, as I said before, we are open to any company that is willing to add value in this and willing to implement the MirrorLink solution. And as I said before, we are OS agnostic. So MirrorLink, it's not only a connectivity solution. It's a standard for industry to have smartphone car integration and especially apps in their car. And we are proving access to smartphone apps to car sensor data, so this is something very important. Currently, the GPS coordinates are provided to the application, so the GPS in the car data are provided to the app so that they will have very good positioning information, but we are thinking of adding more car data so that we can start thinking of apps that will implement a lot of use case based on this car data. And we are providing a common application development guidelines. So this is what I said before. And we are providing everything the app developer is needed to know that it's in the MirrorLink context, and that it will be that the application will be usable while driving. And as I showed before, the certification process for the app developer is something completely transparent, and the architecture is completely transparent for him. All that he has to know is see the guidelines, see how he can make the app used in the car based on these guidelines, and adapt the HMI. We see different text size, maybe different color contrast. If the app is currently fulfilling these guidelines, for him it's very transparent. He just has to get certified, and as soon as he knows that he's certified, the application that is currently available in the App Store will appear on the head unit if it's installed in the smartphone. So if you want to see more of what MirrorLink is, currently we are very happy to announce that we are opening the 1.0 specification. So you can just go on this link and just download the application, the specification for 1.0. And so you can get more knowledge of what technically it implies to develop a MirrorLink 1.0 client and server. And so feel free to have a look on this link. So what we are doing, we are having 3 meetings a year. So this one in Barcelona in March 4th, another one in Texas, and the last one will be in Europe. So in these meetings, we are having technical discussions on the implementation of the MirrorLink technology. We are also discussing on the certification, because as you see, the certification is really an important part if we want to guarantee that the application will be usable in the car while driving. And we are also having a working group that is managing all this ecosystem and a user experience, especially. So new use cases that is coming from either the smartphone industry, the car industry, or we see all the partners and next app developers. All these use cases can be really bring into the consortium to develop additional technology. We are also, because in the car industry, we are improving on the test part, because the IOP is critical. If we want to have the application on a phone working on the car, we see that interoperability on these all elements are going to be very critical. We are having also test events and also technical workshops. So if you want to have more information, I invite you to go in mirrorlink.com. And if you have questions that are not answered here or that comes after viewing the site, or any questions, feel free to send an email to questions@carconnectivity.org or to admin@carconnectivity.org. So again, I invite you to, after this meeting, to go to the booth that we have upstairs. If you want to know the location, it's 8.1J21. So you will be able to see some demos from our members, and you will be able also to discuss with administrators. So thank you very much.
So subject to have for you today in this session is really focused on the discussion of why MirrorLink works for operators, how we can help operators, and the questions that are involved in MirrorLink's use from the operator perspective. Why is this a good thing? So quick overview of the agenda. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, in-car application use, some of the regulation issues, standardization, final thoughts, and then we'll get into our panelists for some discussion and some Q&A from the floor. So who am I? I'm Alan Ewing, the Executive Director of CCC. So 20 years roughly in this industry, various aspects of it. 14 years with Nokia, mostly dealing with industry associations, collaboration, consortia, et cetera. So you can see a long list of the acronyms that I've somehow been involved with in the past. But so far have been involved in the CCC for pretty much its entire lifespan, the 2 years that it's existed. So I've been very fortunate to transition to this role, and looking forward to continuing to help bring this to reality. So on to the meat of the matter, in-car application use. What are the business drivers? Cars are getting connected. We know that. This is a matter of fact. The question is why? Why do people want to use their phones in their cars? And it's usually fairly obvious because we're all most of us drive, maybe not all. Most of us also have smartphones, and we'd like to be able to use our phones. They've become part of us. When you think about the way a smartphone has integrated itself into everyday life, you can't imagine not having it with you. There are people who, if they forget their phones, they leave it at home, they will turn around and make sure to go get it. That same person, if they leave their phone, if they leave their wallet at home, they leave their credit cards or their money at home, I'll get it later, no problem. But the phone is so ingrained and so personal now they can't imagine not having it with them. So considering the fact that, in some cases, folks spend an inordinate amount of time in their vehicles, you can imagine that the smartphone use in the vehicle is also something that we want to support. Consumers want it, auto OEMs want it, operators want it, etc. So it pretty much makes sense that the smartphone use in the vehicle is there. We have to figure out how to do it in a reasonably efficient and less distracted way. The question when you think about regulation, what is the real issue here? Fundamentally, like I was saying, people want to use their phones in their cars. This is something that we see every day. A lot of us, as we're driving along, are distracted by people who are distracted by their phones. You think about it, you see the guy next to you texting, and you become obsessed with why is that guy using his phone instead of keeping his eyes on the road. So the idea of how regulators need to become involved in this is quite important. Everybody recognizes that distracted driving is causing problems on the road. So in the past, especially in the consumer electronics world, we realize that those industries that don't take care of themselves in the sense of regulating how their devices are used, what their devices are used for, somebody will step in to help them. Usually it's a government agency of some form, and that usually means a very heavy-handed approach with little flexibility. So the point is, history has shown, if you don't take care of it yourself, if you don't regulate yourself, somebody will do it for you. Usually when they do it for you, everybody is unhappy. So if we can figure out from the point of view of some group, some organization like CCC, how we can take a standardized approach, a single voice, a viable solution that makes sense, we've addressed those concerns of the regulators, we've addressed those concerns that lead to problems in use of the phone in the car, then we've solved part of the problem that the regulators are concerned about. Obviously, it's not the complete solution, right? That doesn't happen. But it is a long way along towards helping us make the case that we are doing the right job in the right way, and that progress is made. Complexity is already here. How complex is this environment? So when you think about all the different countries and how they're approaching this, almost every nation on earth now, regardless, has some restriction on use. In the United States, in particular, you have each individual state playing a slightly different game. So some states ban it completely, some states ban it for certain situations, some states ban it for novice drivers, some states restrict it for novice drivers, some states restrict it in different fashions. The issue is there is a great deal of complexity. Same with India. Enforcement depends on the region. It's not that the laws are necessarily different, it's how the laws are enforced is different area by area, and that's well documented. In Japan, another good example, hands-free use isn't entirely banned. So you have a problem there that you can't even use your phone technically in the vehicle. And then you think about all the other nations, the EU, different countries, different laws, different problems. Also in Canada, another example, different provinces, different rules. So what happens is if you're trying to figure out how to address distracted driving in a homogeneous way so that your app works regardless of where you use it, your phone you're able to use, etc., it's not easy. In fact, it's next to impossible considering how the regulation has evolved. And that's one of the ideas that we're trying to address in developing the application space for MirrorLink, is if we can come up with a ubiquitous set of driver distraction guidelines that we can thereby turn around and help the regulators realize that the industry is taking care of its own house, can we address that proactively and help offset some of these concerns? The answer is realistically, there's probably always going to be some problems here, right? I mean, we can't get away from it all. Regulators are going to do what regulators are going to do. But if we can address some of those, if we can help take some proactive actions towards it, can we help offset some of the concerns? Can we bring a single voice to it? Just one example I was mentioning about the complexity. From the United States, very easy for me to get data on that, obviously. If you think about the number of states, you can see here, handheld ban, 10 states, maybe more now. Total ban of school bus drivers. There's a nice, easy category to think about. 19 states. Novice ban for drivers under the age of 18. Consider those novice drivers. 33 states. A text ban for all. 39 states. Text ban for school bus drivers, which you would hope would be somewhat intuitive, but to have a formal ban on the law, on the books, 3 states. Text ban, novice drivers, 5. The point we're trying to make here is there's complexity. That's the issue. If you want to check it out, this actually comes from an interesting group, the Governor's Highway Safety Association. They keep an interesting bit of what's going on in this particular arena. And it's very interesting reading if you want to go there. So we step back from the U.S., think more regionally, more globally. These are some of the things we've talked about for the different guidelines and where those guidelines come from. So from Europe, this European Statement of Principles on the Human-Machine Interface for In-Vehicle Information and Communication Systems. A nice, easy to roll off the tongue title. APAC, JAMA, obviously very involved there. And North America, the U.S., the Statement of Principles, the criteria of verification, et cetera, that is being discussed. How do we aggregate those into a set of guidelines that we can digest and do something with in a way that app developers can take and say, this is what I'm going to build my application to? So the aggregate of the superset of regional guidelines, that's what we are trying to do. The general principles of reducing driver distraction. So the 3 things you see there in particular, the no time-sensitive interactions, limited visual distraction, limit of quantity of displayed text. So again, basic principles from the global guidelines that can be harmonized. Workload verification methods. Now here's where, from a testing perspective, life gets very interesting and very complex. From an app developer point of view, you can spend as much time and effort testing an app for driver distraction as you want. You could spend from now until forever. The point is, for us, that's not practical, right? We have to come up with some mechanism to do this in a way that allows us to get the apps verified for use in a reasonable way. And that's what, getting away from some of these more hardcore testing types of approaches that are still quite valuable, but for every new app, do we want to go through weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of testing to get an app that's going to be on an app store for 99 cents out to the public? So how do we address that? UI restrictions, general design principles, again, making sure the characters, the text sizes, the visual designations, the responsiveness, make sure there's not an excessive amount of delay that causes people to go, what's going on, et cetera. Also sound levels, make sure it's not distracting, you're not getting the 1,000 hertz tone at full volume in your ear when you push a button. So these are the kinds of issues you want to make sure to address in that. So from MirrorLink's point of view, how do we do this? So first of all, from the device point of view, MirrorLink standard from the device side allows for the connection of any MirrorLink-enabled smartphone to any MirrorLink-enabled head unit. So from the device point of view, the handsets and the head units, the radios in the cars talk to each other. From application side, application certified against the combination of interop and driver distraction criteria address the regulators. Part of the way, not all the way, but part of the way. And then harmonization of the criteria from us, from the CCC, gives the developers a way to have a one harmonized approach that they know that they can build apps inside of this framework so that when they complete their development, they know that app can be utilized in the real world. Standardization and self-regulation in automotive application space. The idea is, for the mobile operators in particular, there is a new place that they can potentially deliver apps that they can't currently. If you were to ask somebody, let's develop an app for in-car use right now, outside of very specific proprietary interfaces, it's probably something that people are going to be a little bit leery of. what we are doing is saying, if you can create a homogeneous, ubiquitous way of doing this, standardized way of doing this, that takes care of the distracted driving issue, addresses the regulatory issues, et cetera, what we've done is create a way that is acceptable for most folks to say, hey, a car app, this is a good idea, let's get going. Right now, that's an area that's very, very, very complex, a lot of concern as far as delivery there. So what are the benefits? MirrorLink, from the standardization point of view, is the only open industry standard for the smartphone car connection. There are a lot of proprietary connectivity technologies out there. As far as being generally standardized, MirrorLink is pretty much it. Operating system agnostic. We don't care what operating system is on your phone. It's immaterial. Anybody that wants to come to the table, that's good. Independent certification. So again, we have a way of saying, you know, from the point of view of a third party, this app, this connectivity is certified. It's working correctly. It's working against whatever guidelines we've established. The harmonization of driver distraction guidelines, probably one of the most important aspects of this, right? Because unless we figure out how to have one consistent approach, it's very complex. If the app only works in Japan, if the app only works in 19 states in the US, if the app only works in 3 member states of the EU, but not the rest, what's the point? So coming up with a harmonized approach, the idea there. From MirrorLink and CCC, 80% market share in the automotive industry, 80% of the folks that are responsible for 80% of the market share in cars are members of the CCC. So there is an opportunity here from the standardization point of view. The untapped potential. So again, apologies for using an example from the US, but Americans average about 40 miles of driving per day, and over half own smartphones, and that number is increasing. And just a few years ago, that number was only about 40% owned smartphones, but it's already over half now. Distance driven, the amount of time in the vehicle, smartphone ownership only increasing. Currently, practical issues with developing applications for use limits what can be done in the vehicle. You have to be very careful when you say I'm developing an app for in-car use. There's a thriving ecosystem of mobile application developers out there already. There's people out there that know how to develop apps, that are waiting to figure out how to develop apps for a particular implementation that is using those apps for drivers on the road. MirrorLink, arguably, is the missing piece of the puzzle that connects the developers and the operators to bring all these pieces together. So we see ourselves as the bridge between those folks that are developing, that want to develop the apps, and a way for them to deliver those apps in a reasonably non-distracted way for operators or users to use in the vehicles. So customers using approved apps while on the road is an excellent opportunity for the operators to increase their data usage. One of the key things, one of the areas here that the operators have interest in is getting the data usage up, selling more data plans, selling larger data plans to their users. One of the places they cannot say, use your phone, is while people are driving. If we create a way for them to be able to say that in a way that is correct from a regulatory point of view and a PR point of view, this is the opportunity that exists there. So a way to tap into the time that people are already spending in their vehicles and probably using their phones. But if we can help them do it in a way that is now less distracted, is more agreeable, more PR appropriate, then everybody, again, benefits. So embedded versus smartphone use cases. One of the issues that we've heard from the community is, what about the fact that we have embedded modems in vehicles? Won't this hurt? Won't MirrorLink cut into that? And we would argue no. We don't see them as incompatible, we see them as complementary. And actually, in some respects, there are ways that they can be very complementary to one another. But the existing enterprise deployments that are already out there, that many of the operators have invested in, We see those continuing. We don't see them decreasing. There are ways to make MirrorLink, in fact, make them even more valuable. Smartphone use continues to grow. We know people are going to use more and more people are going to get smartphones, they're going to use more and more data, they're going to become more and more interested in having apps that benefit them. So additional applications readily available. So this is just, again, a way that all of this grows, all of this benefits. So some final thoughts before we move over to our panel. Obvious statements, I hope. People want to use their smartphones in their cars. The thing is, they will. We know that. People will use their phones in their car even when they shouldn't. We need to figure out a better way for them to do that. MirrorLink taps into the potential data usage for drivers in a way that is advocable. You can say out there in the public, use your phone. Here's an app. Driver, use this. This is a good thing. And it will not cause a PR problem. It will not cause a regulatory problem. It will grow the data usage that the carriers are particularly interested in. MirrorLink offers a standardized path for proactively addressing regulation. Again, if you can come together, agree on the driver distracted guidelines, et cetera, then all is good. And with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists and get over to some questions from you guys, as well as some questions I've formulated to get the conversation going. So let me introduce our panel. We'll start on the end. Antiomo is Vice President of Marketing at Ixanos, creative IT solutions company. He leads the marketing efforts for new Ixanos services and products worldwide. Antti has 20 years versatile and international work experience in product portfolio management, product marketing, and marketing communication. He's worked in management positions in several multinational companies, including Nokia and Landis+Gyr, Finland, and abroad. He has a master's degree in business, not in engineering, as he likes to say, but brings a lifelong love affair with technology that enriches people's lives in a meaningful way. So welcome, Antti. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Alberto Bonamiso. Thank you. Is a mobile wireless veteran with more than 15 years experience in the mobile and embedded industry, having worked for companies such as ARM, CSR, TTP-Com, acquired by Motorola in 2006. He's currently responsible for the automotive and mobile business development at Real VNC, market leader in MirrorLink IP, licensing supplier for automotive and handset OEMs. Welcome, Alberto. And finally, which is good because my voice is starting to fade, Sue Merrick from Fierce Wireless. Sue has been editor-in-chief of Fierce Markets Wireless Group since joining the company in January of 2007. Her current position, she oversees the editorial content of several Fierce Markets newsletters, including Fierce Wireless, Fierce Mobile Content, Fierce Developer, Fierce Wireless Europe, excuse me, running out of voice at the right time.
Yeah, you don't have to go on.
So, welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you. My voice does abandon me at the wrong times.
You okay?
Yeah, it's just the usual. So with that, I'd like to get some conversation started. So let me start with a question and see how we develop into some conversation. So I'll ask the panel, maybe start with you, Sue. How do you see the value of standardization from this point of view for the carriers, for app development, et cetera? What do you see as the real value there?
Yeah, I mean, I think for developers, they're always looking for some guidelines and some standardization across the industry, and I think that always helps. But standardization also has a downside, which is sometimes it can delay innovation. It can keep people, waiting for standards from developing apps or, moving forward. So I think anytime there's standardization, there's a good side and a bad side to it.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, to build an ecosystem, and that's what we want, that's what we need. The standardization should be more focusing on enabling than restricting. I think that's the key thing. Mm-hmm. There are both sides, as Sue mentioned, but we need to be aware of this.
Yeah, I agree. There's also the opportunity to bridge two industries that are completely far apart, where we have automotive with long product life cycles. When MirrorLink gets into a car, it will be there for 10 years, but my phone changes every 6 months. So that is actually fixing this very problem right now.
Yeah. So another question that occurs to me when I was asked to frame this up, which is one of the more difficult panels actually to try to figure out how to present MirrorLink, you know, and thinking about why carriers would find this valuable or important or anything else, is exactly that. Why would the carriers think this is something that they would support? Well, what do you think? Gautier, has anything occurred to you on why carriers should find this interesting? To speak for the carriers out of turn, perhaps.
Because their clients want to use their apps in the car, and there is interest in this.
Yeah.
There is interest in developing, maybe they plan to develop some apps also on their side, and propose a bundle of application that can be available in cars, which is currently impossible, without contacting every car maker. So this is really the purpose of this is really to, as soon as you're compliant, as soon as your app is compliant with the MirrorLink and enabled and is enabled to be drive certified, then it can be available in any car, any device that is MirrorLink certified. And there is no other questions.
Yeah.
I think there are two reasons why operators should be very interested in MirrorLink. First of all, because there's no downside. It's very low-hanging fruit related to MirrorLink, which is increasing the data traffic, increasing revenue, maybe increasing some phone or M2M subscriptions as well. So very easy win. But then the second thing is that if operators think outside the box, there are numerous opportunities to really have a significant increase in revenue, significant increase in customer loyalty, enabled by MirrorLink and things around it. So you just need to look. The opportunities are obvious.
Interesting.
I'm going to bring up an opposite view.
Yeah.
So I talk to a lot of operators, and my impression is a lot of them, yes, they're fine with you bringing your handset and your existing phone into the car, but I think what they really want is their technology embedded into the car. Why? Because they want more connections to their network. You're an existing connection because you're already bringing your smartphone. They've already got you as a customer. Yes, they can increase the data usage. Yes, that's all good. But I think most of the operators I talk to actually want their technology embedded. I think there's a race right now for them they want the car manufacturers, they want alliances with the car makers and the car makers to put their technology in the cars.
That's an interesting point, because I've had the same discussions with them, and the network operators they've been hating the idea of becoming a data pipe, and all of a sudden they realize they become a data pipe. They've tried different things on platforms, services, and really you now buy a smartphone with a data plan, and there's no added value for them. So this is really, I agree with you, it's definitely a great opportunity to create a new way of developing applications and delivering services, basically because learning to use a smartphone is not a simple thing. For most people, is actually, particularly the latest generation, is quite complicated. So if you can learn to use the device and then move that across your car, so you don't need to learn a new user interface, which is always, there's always some awkwardness. So that is probably one of the biggest values. So the network operators should really look at it as a way to provide added value services and build this into a car environment as well. So then I can see where they can start having services about traffic, point of interest, and drive that interest towards their own carrier.
There's probably an argument for both, because I think, like you said, it doesn't compete with embedded. Embedded could be diagnostic information in the car.
That's right.
You're probably not going to get that on your smartphone unless there's a really great developer that
But you can get through MirrorLink.
Okay. Okay,
That's fixed.
okay.
Good.
And, yeah, I'm sure that in discussion some operators are feeling this sentiment, but I strongly believe that the strategic view should be broader than that. And if you the world is changing, and if you try to fight against it, then you will be reduced into a data pipe, which operators do not want to be and do not need to be.
I think the big battle is between the car manufacturers and the operators. Who owns that customer? The car makers want to own it, or does the operator own it?
And consumers never enjoy being owned.
That's true.
Or double
But my question, though, also is like, what about there are car makers with developer programs, right? Ford, for example. So if you're a developer, do you go with the Ford developer program or do you go with MirrorLink?
Well, you go where the critical mass is. So the market is.
As opposed to going to each individual car maker's developer program, you go to MirrorLink.
As a
because-
developer, you look at the opportunity for selling your app. So, and again, this is where the CCC guys have done a great job in bringing in the vast majority of the key players in mobile, in integration services, and car manufacturers. So there's your critical mass, there's your standard. There's really making it easy for me to develop an app, but also thinking the app for the car. And this is all done for me by MirrorLink. So that's really where the value is.
And if we can just continue a little bit on this important question, if we look at it from the perspective of services, embedded or smartphone, some common services exist already today. Eco-friendly driving, customer service, etc. So the embedded and the smartphone, they do complement, and they should be interoperable, and maybe at some point even converge. Because if we look at it from a customer perspective, whether the customer is a consumer or corporate, for them the important thing is what is enabled, not how. And we should keep this in mind.
As a last thing,
Yeah.
comment. There's actually if you look at specific markets like China, for instance, in China there's a huge demand for smartphones. At the same time, there's a huge demand for MirrorLink because it's to the average salary, a smartphone and the data plan that comes with it is quite a toll. So the fact that I can use my smartphone in the car and add more value to what I already pay for is actually what is selling MirrorLink in China today.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Maybe we open up to a few questions from the floor. If there anything anyone would like to drill down on or ask about? Yeah, we have a microphone. So.
I heard a similar discussion this morning on the GSMA-sponsored car connectivity forum, early 8:30 to 10 or something like that. Right. And it was all over the map. And I walk in and I hear the same discussion going on here. But it strikes me that there is a certain amount of service or maintenance payments that are made, whether you have a phone or a car, in both cases. And so if you just sort of agglomerate all those maintenance costs into one or the other, that it seems like the car would be a natural choice for things, because you have to pay your service fees anyway to keep the car running, to keep it serviced, to keep it the tires changed, etc. And so why not actually just roll the data cost into that, because then you get economies of scale, you get predictability, and you can cut the cost way down. But I don't really see anyone looking at this, not even the car manufacturers themselves. So that's kind of a comment which leaves its way open to a question. I'm sure you guys could respond to that based on what I've heard in the past 10 minutes.
Gautier is our auto guy. You want to try to field that one? Could you just maybe restate the question for us?
The question is, what do you think about rolling up the cost for providing data services to cars, where the operators want to be? You say the operators want to work with the car manufacturer, so they own that real estate. Fine. So there are car maintenance plans out there. What do you think about the idea of rolling those costs up with the cost of car maintenance plans?
I like that idea. I'm sorry, I'm not, but I'm thinking the operator, because you know what the big problem is? Consumers don't want to pay more, right? They've already paying for this data plan. They're already using, and so the idea, anytime you it's that whole model of the Amazon Kindle where you bundle the price of the book and the airtime into the price of the book, you're bundling in the price of the airtime into the maintenance plan, and right, they're not really seeing that they're going to fork out more money for wireless connectivity. They see that they're going to buy a maintenance plan that is going to give them, peace of mind, right, or something like that.
And the key cost for operators now in the retail market is acquiring the customers and keeping the customers. This way, the cost of acquiring the customers goes to zero or close to it. So you can actually change the economics incredibly.
But then the ownership of the customer is with the car manufacturer or the service dealer.
That's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
That's true, but yeah, so.
The thing with MirrorLink, it's really enabling the usage of smartphone in cars. And the smartphone is provided by the operator. So this is another way for an operator to provide technology to the end user and to provide services to the end user. And this is what operators seems to not like so much is people using the phone in tethering mode. This is not something, because they are just a pipe. And here, the user used the device provided by the operator through MirrorLink, as it's a mirroring technology. So this is really a case where, for them, it should be a good opportunity for them to say, we provide you a device that you can use in your car. And with apps embedded maybe in this device, bundled with this device that they are currently doing, and services that is in this device, and these services are available in your car. And whether it's through the device that they are selling directly to the consumer or through partnership with car makers, for them it's two different elements that can be very well complementary. Some services must be available all the time in the car, whether the phone is here, whether the user is here or not. And for this, you might need a data connection, a specific data connection, and services that can be also enabled when the phone is here, but will use the connectivity directly to the car because of many reasons. Speed also can be one of the reasons, because you have the antenna on the roof that can maintain very good quality of connectivity directly in the car. And each car maker will have its own strategy. But these two channels address different use cases, but for the operator, either if it's one through a car maker or the other through the device, they can have added value in both solutions.
Well, there are two aspects to the MirrorLink. I mean, one is you actually provide the data channel so that it all works at all. And the other aspect is that you actually provide the context of that person that they carry with them on their smartphone, transferring that into the car environment in such a way that it's safe for them to operate that car and actually use that environment. And you can separate out the two, and you can still finance one with the other. There are a lot of things open. You don't have to take them as a package deal.
Okay. Any question? Yeah.
I actually agree with Sue's point that the MirrorLink system does compete with a lot of what network operators are trying to do with machine-to-machine programs and the consequent data tariffs that look to generate revenue. So what is it exactly that the Car Connectivity Consortium wants from operators? Is it endorsements, partnerships?
What exactly does CCC want from operators? It's a good question. Thinking of being careful, because obviously the connection with operators, we are putting things on phones, applications on phones that have an impact for them. As the as the interface to the customer, one of the things that I'm aware of, that if, at least in the States in particular, if I use that example, if there's an issue with this device, I associate this device with carrier X, Y, or Z. I don't associate it with the manufacturer of the device necessarily, or even the folks that wrote the app. So from the point of view of the carrier, I think what we're looking for is a way to make sure that the applications and the work that we are doing in bringing applications into this space, into the automotive space, is working in a way that is agreeable to their goals, and B, not creating problems that they don't want. So one of the things we lack, frankly, right now are clear operator voices in CCC. And those are the kinds of things from an ecosystem we need to make sure we understand, that we're not, A, creating problems that they don't want, and B, addressing issues that they do want addressed. Things like, making sure the regulatory issues are addressed in a homogeneous way, so that if somebody wants to write an app, it just works. That they have positive information that they can deliver to the public to say, we've got a solution now that we agree is a way for apps to be used in the car in a non-distracting way. So ideally, yeah, we want obviously the endorsement of it, but we want to make sure we understand that the business relationship that the carrier has, or that is very intimate with their customer, isn't disrupted by what we're trying to do as well, which we think is a good idea, but at the same time, they're the ones providing the link to the network, and also the phone itself, that's part of this picture. So yeah, obviously, we'd love to have the carriers all get together and say, this MirrorLink stuff is great and wonderful, we support it, we want everybody to like it, but at the same time, we want to make sure that what we are doing parallel to what the carriers, have going on in their own worlds doesn't create other problems, either through, customer interface issues that they have to deal with on their call lines, or in general, PR issues that they have to field, or whatever. So ideally, yes, we want to get those guys in and say, how do we make sure that we're addressing your concerns and not stepping on toes that we shouldn't be stepping on? It's meant, the consortium is meant to be a gathering of all interested parties. So would love to have those guys in the room in those discussions to make sure we're addressing those issues. So I don't know if I answered your question, except maybe a very
It sounds like you want
correct.
dialogue. It's dialogue to make sure that you're all on the same page.
Right. Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, the short version of all that rambling was that, yeah. The questions? How are we doing on time? We're very close, aren't we? We're good. Maybe we have about 10 minutes left, I think. Yeah, about 10 minutes, yeah. Any other? I can throw out another one for us. Yeah.
It can be also some questions regarding the MirrorLink technology, more general question, if there is anything you want to be seen as addressed.
I'd like to hear more about, so we know distracted driving is a big issue, you touched on it. Are there specific app that, if I develop an app that requires the driver to send a text, is that offline? I mean, are there specific things? What about video?
Right.
What about, are there specific things that are just off the table for developers?
Right, and that's what the application development guidelines address, is they're primarily developed against the driver distraction guidelines. So there are things like driver workload issues, how much you can glance off of the activity of driving. So things like generating a text, yeah, probably, if you had to type a text.
Yeah.
Certainly. So things
or is
like
there a voice activation?
Exactly,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So looking for ways to address that overall workload, whatever they may be. So voice interaction, but if there is physical user interaction required, that interaction has to be simple, require a minimum amount of time off of the task of driving, et cetera. And that's what the guidelines are really devoted to. So that's one of the deliverables we have for the application developers, is those guidelines. So they know when they pick this up, here's the framework I can work within. And if we haven't done a good job of those driver distraction guidelines for the app developers, we haven't done our job. That's really the main deliverable we have for those folks, so they know what to do. The rest of it's mechanical. You know, the rest of it's engineering problems, and those are always, you know, always solvable. But how we get that other information across on building a good app for this space, that's where a lot of the challenge, frankly, lies.
And Alan, I think operators are in a very unique position in that regard. And what I would like to recommend all operators to do is to really think of the assets that you have. You know, your subscribers, your infrastructure, and what you can really do to provide completely new types of services and new types of value to the consumers, to the car OEMs, to the retailers, and it does require, you know, a whole lot of innovation to come up with some great stuff that can really enhance the relationship that the operators have with their customers and with their partners.
Right. Well, the operators have to open their APIs for certain, right? For like voice activation. Isn't that an operator or GPS location stuff? Isn't that required from the operator or no?
Mostly device dependent.
That's all device?
Yeah. So that's where then you have issues with segmentation in the market, because you have, you know, versus Android, you have at least 4 different versions of the operating system, which is then fragmented into network operators, countries. So the same phone you buy in Japan has nothing to do, or very little to do with the phone you buy in France, typically. That's where the problems are. And again, I think having the standard would mean that the phone I buy in Japan and is MirrorLink certified will work when I travel across and I come to Europe. If I have my MirrorLink logo in the head unit, the MirrorLink logo in my mobile phone, then the two will work out of the box.
At least for MirrorLink.
At least for MirrorLink, yes. At least for
So you
MirrorLink.
can't control Android,
I was listening
Right.
to LTE is going to create even more fragmentation in the market, because it's using so many bands.
band classes.
Yeah, so there will be 20 different versions of the phone, and then you have CDMA in the mix. So it's a complex matter, but this is where very few times in the industry you've seen something that actually simplifying the problem and finding a solution rather than overcomplicating it.
So we have time for one more question. Anyone want to ask the definitive question for the day? Okay. I'd like to thank our panelists. Oh, sorry, Antti.
No, if I may just, if
Yeah,
no further
please.
questions, kind of just my final observation.
Final
if
observation,
I may.
please, yeah.
Because kind of metaphorically speaking, I think that now for MirrorLink, it's lunchtime. You know, people in CCC have been working very hard to set the table and to get the technology standardization where we are now. And now the next step, kind of during the afternoon, is to get the developers, the operators, the content providers to build something fabulous on top of that. And then in the evening, we'll have a great party together.
I like it.
But don't drink and drive.
Well spoken.
Great.
So very, very good. I'd like to thank our panelists. A round of applause for them, please. So with that, this concludes the session of the MirrorLink, whatever this is,
Thank you.
our panel sessions, and we'll resume a little bit later today. Thank you.
Thank you.